top left, I close it.
Kids, and I've watched others as their
This
dogs.
meeting is being recorded.
And I've watched others as their dogs pull them across the street, and cars are whipping down Edna Taylor off of Femrite. So after looking at it, I just thought, it seems like it might be a fairly easy switch to put it on the other side. There is a hydrant on the west side of the street, which people do park in front of. I would say that the park is getting a lot more use than probably when it first opened. I would probably at this hour, I would bet 8 to 15 or 20 dogs there right now. That's typical. And so the street's being fully parked up. And then the other part of that was, and I made note of it, there is an elderly man who uses a walker, and I think you probably know of him, Dan. And he's got 2 dogs. And so he's gotten kind of a special privilege of being able to park right by the gate on that side. And that works really well for him. And I thought maybe if we moved it all over, that might just work better for everyone. So that's really all I had.
All right. And Chrissy, I know you know this, but I'm just repeating for others that are here that during the public appearance section, we're able to listen only, not able to engage in dialogue. So that is one of the reasons why we noticed this as an agenda item for at least a discussion later. So we can share some of the initial kind of thoughts and discussions from a public works standpoint. So we'll follow up with you afterwards too, Christy.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you. All right.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else here that is for a public appearance? I've seen everybody that's on Zoom. It does not. It looks like everybody is for agenda items. So we'll close the appearance section. There is no unfinished business. We'll go on to 6A, which is the discussion and consideration of the request changes of the certified survey map at 4711 Monona Drive. This is regarding the Bloom Development Project. And Doug, do you mind kind of starting us off?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Doug Plowman, Planning Director here with the City of Monona. So the request here this evening is a 2-lot certified survey map. It would be for the entire block that is bound by Monona Drive, Gordon, Springhaven, and West Dean Avenues. Currently, there's quite a few different parcels there. The former Snick's Sportsman's Bar, BMO Bank as well. The proposal has been moving through the city's plan commission for a mixed-use redevelopment on that site. And as part of that, the applicant is looking to consolidate and redraw the lot lines to better adhere to the proposed development. It would be the creation of 2 lots, and we have the applicants here on the line as well as the engineer. So I'll defer to them for the details, but seeking a public works recommendation this evening. It has come through Plan Commission for a pre-hearing on the CSM and would be teed up for a consideration at the Plan Commission after this meeting as well. Thank you.
And is it James that we have here or Nate?
Yeah, both Sean and I are here from the Neutral Project. James is from JT Engineering, and I think James put a little bit of a presentation together to share with Public Works, and so I'll hand it over to him to talk through a little bit more on the CSM.
Wonderful. And James, do you have sharing rights on your side yet? If not, we'll give them to you here in a second.
Let me see. I joined. I have to apologize. I'm in Florida cleaning some things up, so let me just see if I can get out on my computer right quick. I'm on my phone now so that I have video. Sorry.
James, I can share if you want me to. Is it the document you sent to Doug?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just going to be the part of the packet that Douglas sent out for this meeting. And we'll just kind of walk through the memorandum that was prepared. I think that outlines well what we were looking to do.
Nate, did you want me to make you co-host?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay.
I am just pulling up the document here, guys. Just give me 1 second.
Here you go, James.
Excellent.
Okay,
Thank you for your patience.
No worries.
So it, coinciding with our CSM is a memorandum. I don't know if you have that in your packets in front of you, but if you do, I'm going to kind of narrate through that quickly. The CSM certainly being on the screen is pretty good too. So we're proposing to prepare a certified survey map encompassing all of Block 9 of the Springhaven plat, which is bounded by Dean Avenue, Gordon Avenue, Springhaven, and Monona Drive. I believe there is one piece of unplatted land in the corner that maybe used to be the town hall at Dean and Monona Drive. But nevertheless, our proposal is to take the sum of that area, which is currently, I believe it's 9 subdivision lots or typical lots, and then that unplatted piece, and make it into 2 lots. The one bigger lot would contain a planned unit development, a multi-use structure. Essentially, I think it has like 83 apartments and some commercial spaces and underground parking, as well as a little bit of surface parking and some green space for the community and the tenants of the area or of the space. And on the smaller lot that would front on Gordon, but have all of its access come from internal to the site, we are proposing to build some townhomes. And that will act also as a little bit of a buffer between the residential community and the larger multi-use structures that are closer to Dean Avenue, or excuse me, Monona Avenue. So again, 2 lots, smaller one would be for townhomes, and the larger one would be comprised of 2 larger multi-use structures. The lots are intended to be retained by the neutral project. However, we would like to create the 2 lots now, should there ever be a reason that the townhomes need to be disposed of or sold. So we would like to get those in a separate parcel of land. As part of this, there would be access to garages in the townhomes that would come, yep, thank you, Nate, through the access easement that comes off of Dean and runs north to Springhaven through the entirety of Lot 1. It's very near on Dean to where the bank access is now. It's going to slide over a little bit, but it is fairly close. It's actually shown on page 2 of the CSM, guys, if you want to scroll down. Right there. And so the access point physically would not be changing or moving a whole lot. It may slide a little bit to accommodate the overall design, but it's very similar to the bank access point is. And then it will run all the way north until it hits Springhaven. And that access is for the parking garages underneath the multi-use structures, the garages underneath the townhomes, and access to the surface parking lot in the southwest corner of the site. So everything would essentially flow through this, and there should not be additional access points along Monona that are requested or along the Gordon Avenue corridor. There are a few private easements that currently exist on the site due to the many tax parcels and several different uses that we are working to expunge in conjunction with the CSM process. Namely, there is an easement for gas and another for transformers for MG&E and a couple of telephone easements. We are working with those entities to either release or move the facilities in conjunction with our site development and CSM development and site plan. As it pertains to the city of Monona, there are 4 easements along Dean Avenue and Monona Drive. There's 1 each on the side of the current Monona sign, which is kind of in the southeast corner. 1 there and 1 there. 1 is occupied with a fire hydrant, and the other is currently unoccupied. They are both for utilities, I believe. The 3rd one, and the one that we are most concerned with, is near the label for Lot 2 at Monona Drive. Up a little bit right there. It appears with the Monona Drive improvements, the city acquired an easement from BMO Harris Bank to allow access by the sports bar owner and possibly consolidate driveways. I'm thinking that's what happened. That easement would conflict with our building site, and we are proposing to remove that physical access to Monona Drive anyway. So we are hoping that we can work with the city to release that easement. And the fourth easement is to the north at Spring Haven in Monona, and it is also for utilities, and I believe is occupied by a fire hydrant currently.
Good question, James. The driveway easement, if you combine the lots, then the driveway easement really isn't needed anymore because it's then one lot, correct?
Correct, yes. If it was held by one owner, a grant of that easement from the other owner, it would just go away when we acquire both of the properties. But because the easement is to the city, we need the city to release it.
So I assume if the city approves the CSM as requested to combine it into one lot, then the easement's no longer needed then, so.
That is our proposal, yes.
Yep. Okay.
Dan, you're not talking about this, easement, you're talking about the city one on Drive.
The joint driveway one right
Yep.
here?
Yep. Yeah, that one, we don't need it all.
Right.
Obviously contingent on neutral acquiring both parcels prior and approval of the CSM.
Could somebody tell me as a new kid on the block a little bit about this process? Because this is a CSM that gets hopefully approved here and then it's city council, but yet all the properties aren't yet acquired. So is it like conditionally approved then until the properties are all acquired?
Right. All that we provide here is a recommendation for approval based on what they're seeking.
Right?
Plan commission,
Does the
CDA,
same thing.
CDA,
Plan commission does.
and city council. Yeah, so there's a number of other meetings, but they have to get our blessing to roll with.
But when the city council does it, will they do it after the properties are acquired or beforehand?
Doug could probably answer that.
You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm unmuting. It certainly couldn't be done until they were acquired. And so the city has documentation from the applicant that they have options and in different levels of agreement with the different property owners. But this could certainly not be recorded with the Register of Deeds and finalized until that point. So most likely it would be a condition of approval or a recommendation from the Plan Commission as they place their review. One of the conditions would of course be, full ownership and control prior to recording.
Okay. And the access road that's on the second exhibit, who's in charge of snow plowing and maintenance on that? The lot 2 owners?
It's not the city, not the city, no,
No,
it's not a city.
no.
It's outside of our right of way, so it'd be the property manager or the owner of the parcel,
Of lot 2.
of whoever the final owner is. When they
And
combine,
just a clarifying point, they're the same owner, so it will
okay,
just be our property management company. If it was ever sold, it would likely just be this lot 2 who would have to plow lot 1.
We've been working, Nate, Sean, pipe in here if I'm incorrect, but we've been working with the legal counsel for this project to create I'm going to slaughter the word, it's not declaration, but essentially to prepare a document that takes care of those assignments for maintenance and snow plowing and things amongst the 2 lots to make it more transparent. Again, they're going to be owned and managed singularly right now.
All right, any other questions that people have? All right, hearing none, it looks like what we need from this group is a recommendation for approval regarding the CSM as presented. Would that be sufficient?
And it's a recommendation for approval by the plan commission or?
By Public Works to full council.
right, yeah, our recommendation would have council.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would move a recommendation from this committee for approval by the council.
I'll second.
All right, take your pick. All right, any last questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thanks, guys. Should be all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will close item 6A, move on to 6B, which is discussion and consideration of the sanitary sewer main lining project bid award.
Could I, 1 second? Yeah, Patrick, Tim arrived, so if you need to cut out, we have a continued quorum if you need to go.
No worries, we'll let them know again. I'll send you a text.
Okay. Okay, so in the packet, we advertised for another round of sanitary sewer main lining. We have allocation funding in our 2022 capital budget for this work. On August 25th, we received bids, 3 bids, and Busy Sewer provided a little bit. The amount was $136,270. And a bid alternate of $1,000. We're seeking committee approval for both. In the packet, we also have a map of the locations and a bid tab for your review. I know Tim went through this past year with us with the first round. Overall, it went pretty good. There was some tree damage from the steam that we worked through with you on. But overall, the project went very well. And so I'm seeking your recommendation for approval to City Council. We did trim the bid to meet our budget, which is what we advertised. Like I said, it's for $136,270 for the low bid, and then $1,000 for the bid alternate for root cutting if needed, and grease removal.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions? And then I have one minor one.
Mhm.
Is this a typo that the first bid was $20,000 for?
Oh, that's the engineer's estimate.
Oh,
you look on top.
I see. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Okay, all right.
All right. Hearing no other questions, because my silly one. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And this passed. Moving on to 6C, which is discussion and consideration of the 2023 operating budget. Dan's got a lot of cheat sheets for us, which helps.
So for those that are new, what I do is only bring forward, I bring forward our entire budget. But we have certain line items that are not in our control and ones that are in our control. And the blue, the shaded blue is what I'm asking your recommended approval on. Because I have so many budgets and because there are so many line items, what I've been doing since my arrival 11 years ago is I provide a operational budget highlight sheet of changes of $500 or more, whether it's an increase or a reduction. We do that to save time because otherwise we'd be here for 5 hours instead of 2 hours. So that said, for anybody listening, I'm just going to keep on rolling. And if there's any questions, just let me know. So we'll start with the general buildings and grounds budget. The gas and electric utility increase for this building here by $12,900. And that's based on 2022 use. And we are now paying 10% of the electricity costs at the library because of the municipal room usage for city council. This is at the mayor's directive. So that's why this line item increased.
I thought we were already paying for some of that.
We might have been, but this is the first year it showed up in my budget.
Okay, so it might have been underneath the administrative budget before, now it's just moving here.
Yeah, because I was wondering how I got so far off.
Yeah.
And Mark said, oh, I forgot to tell you. Just because we're allocating 10% of library power use to this budget right here. So I think it's a 2% and a 3% for MG&E, and then the balance is to cover what we're being allocated by the library.
All right.
So the outside services account increases by $6,135. And that is to account for an increase in HVAC preventive maintenance charges. That's based on new pricing, based on the new equipment that we have here. All facilities went through the contract update. So it's one of those automatics that we basically have to do.
Will that be continuing then year after year?
Yep.
Yep.
And so there we hire an outside firm to do that?
Yes, we do.
Do we have enough facility where we should have our own HVAC guy?
We would have to hire a specialized person.
Might be cheaper. But might not be too.
Yeah, you know, I think we'd have to look at that for all three facilities and see where we're at, but
At some point, we should probably
Yeah.
have to see if it's
right.
more economic.
So I don't know how that would work for parts. You know, the companies get bigger discounts because they buy in greater bulk. I don't know how that would work for us, but I think it's something we'll definitely take a peek at for sure.
I mean, my experience with, I've gotten to know a little bit about HVAC over the last summer. And the parts off of Amazon are a lot cheaper than what you get from the company.
Right, but are they the same quality though?
They are the same quality.
If you looked at the current pattern of spending, you'd find out whether or not the preventive maintenance is year round or whether or not it's allocated to before winter or before air conditioning.
We have items that are monthly, we have items that are quarterly.
Okay.
So we have, the contracts are broken down based on pieces of equipment. And then the maintenance intervals are based on that piece of equipment. So, yeah. The last item for this budget would be the repair, maintenance, and supply. We increased that by $3,200. That pays for facility repairs. And this building is old and it's just one of those things. I know the mayor does cut it. I bring it back, add more money, she cuts it. It ends up being what it is because if things break, you gotta fix it. So. But going from 5,000 to 8,200, some years we make it, some years we don't, like 2021, we have a big expense here in 2021. And the forecast for ending in 2022, we're getting closer to that $8,000 figure. So that's why I bumped it up to cover that, so.
Has the repair money ever been considered to be part of capital?
No, because it's maintenance.
I know the maintenance couldn't be, but if it was a repair item,
Question is whether you're increasing the life or not. You don't
Yeah.
increase the life, you're
Yeah.
gonna got it expensive.
It's garage doors, it's roof repairs, things like that. So, any questions from those on Zoom? Okay, any other questions for this budget? All right, moving on to the Public Works Administration / engineering budget. Outside services. First, let me go back. The directive from the mayor is we had to put together two budgets. You see a 0% and a -2%. I was told to present a 0% budget, which is what the Public Works Committee will provide a recommendation on. So what you see here is based on 0%. As we dig into this Public Works Administration budget and the next budget, the total Public Works, for the general fund, that's where we have to achieve a 0%, but the utility accounts, because they're rate-based, the general fund does not apply to that. So I'll cover that as we move along. So this budget here did achieve a 0%. We decreased the outside services, which is an engineering budget for things that are not capital projects. This has been cut the past 2 years. We were once at $7,000 and we're going to be down to 5,000 or down to 3,100. So hopefully we don't have things that come up. And the other one is the MPO, the Madison Area Planning Organization. We pay an annual fee to that, and that increased by $729. So, but we did achieve 0%. You can see that midway through the paper there where it says expenditures increase, you see the 0% right there. Okay, moving on to the next one. The Highway and Streets Administration, we are now into the bulk of our general fund and the bulk of our budgets. Where you see the 5% increase there, that's only for this budget. When we get to the final, when we look at the forestry at the end, that's where you'll see we achieve the 0%. So we'll look at that when we get to the forestry budget. Professional development was reduced down to $600 to help meet the budget demands, the budget requirements. And that's it for the Highway and Street Administration. This is basically for Jeff to attend continuing education classes. So.
Do any of those continuing eds count towards a certification that needs to be maintained?
He is now our certified arborist, which comes out of the forestry budget.
Oh, so we might be able to divide up.
Yeah.
Just making sure that
Yeah.
we don't lose something that we need to have.
Right. This would be for him to go to any snow and ice control classes, updates, things like that, but not required stuff. Next budget would be the shop machinery and buildings, the gas and electric utilities. We increased that by 2,000 to account for usage and rate increases for 23. And that was the only significant change there. In the street maintenance and construction budget, we increased the uniform allowance that hadn't been touched in 11 years. That's, I believe, for 7 people. We increased that by $1,200 overall. Also, Brad and I, we occasionally buy shirts out of that account and we get our embroidery done through that account as well. Street outside services, we decreased that. This is the big one to help meet the 0% by $16,000 to account for budget restrictions. Now, when we complete the chip seal, we do a lot of crack filling in that project. So this, in the past, we've used for infrared heats, small section patching. We're in essence shifting that to the capital. So, but that's where we were able to meet our 0% by knocking that big one out. The street sweeping and disposal account was decreased by $880, and that was based on the 2021 and expected 2022 usage. This was a new account line item coming into this year. It's reduced based on need. So street equipment maintenance and repair increased by $3,550 to account for purchase expenses. Fuels and additives, an increase there. As you know, because of the market on fuels, it's increasing by $2,800 here. Snow and ice supplies decreased by $6,200 based on our current inventory and our contract obligations for 2023. So when our shed is empty, we buy more. Being that we have a full shed, we buy less. So any questions for that budget?
Yeah, but actually it's a more general one. Health insurance, went up by 7,000 and some change. Would you say a few comments about what happened to health insurance overall? Because obviously.
I can't comment on that because it's not my.
Oh, it's not blue.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the things that are not blue are either formula based or controlled by the administrator and finance director.
I see.
That's why we don't entertain them here.
Okay.
They're either automatic charges, annual fees, salaries, wages, things like that, which are determined above me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Got it.
But if you do have questions, Dave, put them in email to Mark and he'll answer it for you.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to road-related facilities. The street lighting utilities is our power bill for lighting all of our lights. And if we have to replace street light poles throughout the year, we also put it to this line item. We're increasing that by $3,000. again, to account for a rate increase. But we've been pretty static on that over the years. The traffic control and maintenance, the city of Madison, we pay the engineering department to maintain our traffic lights in the city. And so we're reducing that by 4,000 based on need. And if we see an increase in 23, we'll raise it back up again for 24. Any questions on that budget?
Nope.
In forestry, this is the last general fund budget in this group. Forestry supplies increased by $500 based on need. The right-of-way tree removal increased by $1,829 to account for increases of the cruise time for ash tree removal. So we have a portion in the capital budget that we pay a contractor to do for ash tree removal, but our crew also does ash tree removal, and this helps pay for their time. Tree removals and care. Now this is trees other than ash trees. That's what this account pays for, and we decrease that by $4,000 based on need. The bulk of it right now is ash trees. So in the last item for the forestry budget, our brush pickup contract increased by $970. That's half the increase in the forestry budget. The other half shows up in the storm utility. That's some creative budgeting. I don't know, it must meet some state statutes. So that would be it for this budget, but I do want to mention that Jeff Johnson, who's our deputy director, he became our certified arborist this past year. He is now certified. So we are no longer paying Johnson Tree Care for those services. However, we do have him as a backup in case we come across something that we just don't know. But it's nice when we can bring something like that in-house, and I think that was a $7,500 save.
Yeah.
But so we'll have, Jeff will attend classes to maintain his certification.
Does his expertise go out to like parks as well? Or is it
Yes, he will, and
Strictly
private
right away?
property. So the certified arborist tasks that Mike Johnson did in the past was basically for anybody in the city that has a tree concern. They were able to bring Mike in and we would pay for it as an initial survey. But that's where it ends. The city doesn't pay for private tree work. If they need somebody to come and say, you have this disease or you have root girdle or something like that, that's what we do with private property. So
But parks as well?
Parks a little more bigger role because it's the city property and it's the city department.
So he's an expert for both.
Yes, yep. So with that, you'll see the total expenditures at the very bottom below the forestry. So we've achieved 0%. So we've met the mayor's restriction with these, I think, 5 budgets that we just covered. So any questions before I move on to the solid waste budget? Solid waste is contracted now with Waste Management. We are entering the last year of the contract, which I think a lot of people are happy to hear because we've had a lot of issues with Waste Management. So everything that you see here for increases or decreases is based on contract. The rebate program, which is revenue that we require through the contract. So instead of Waste Management getting that revenue, we get that revenue based on the Chicago high side market prices. And the market has been going up for rebate revenue, so we increase that based on what we are seeing in 2022 here. The recycling collection expense increased by $990 based on the contract. Yard waste and disposal is not affiliated with Waste Management, but it shows up in this budget. We are increasing that by $2,620, and that's all contract based. Our solid waste tipping fees are actually decreasing by $6,598. And I had to review this like 3 times to make sure I was seeing it right. But you can't argue with the tonnages and tipping fees. And I have a spreadsheet I maintain for every year, and I can share it with you by email. I've done that in the past. That'll show our actual tonnage, so we get to decrease that. But the refuse collection expense, the actual showing up to the curb and tipping the cart, that contract will increase by $3,410 for that.
You said this is the last year of the contract. When are we going out for new RFP?
That is gonna be my big project for November, December, going into next year. So we will go through 23 with waste management, but I'm expecting January 1st of 24 will be under the new RFP contract. So we're gonna be changing some language in it. With the attorney, we're gonna have some penalty listed in there. Yes.
That's the biggest headache.
I think when it comes to waste management, there are many communities that have gone through and are going through the same issues we are going through. And I don't know why. But we need to cover ourselves in the next contract. So, any questions on that budget? Okay.
Nothing.
All right, moving on to the utilities. These are rate-based and they're not covered by the general fund, so it's a different form of accounting. The mayor does not have a 0% target here. However, we've done good with keeping the rate increases down. So I'm going to go with the sanitary sewer first. So on your sheet, it'll be number 11 at the bottom on the second page. We're increasing our on-call pay to maintain a competitive on-call pay with the greater Madison area. We haven't adjusted this one since 2012. And it's going to increase by $3,256, and the costs are shared with the water utility, the increases. So we've been paying $100 a week for staff to maintain a local presence to Monona and to respond to after-hour emergencies, and that's going to go up to, I think, $225 a week. So there are communities out there that are paying up to $400 a week, and we just can't go that high. So we're going to try and get them to a more of an average metro on-call pay. And the only other item for sewer or miscellaneous general expense increases by $700, and that's based on historical expense. What I'm sort of happy to report is we're not seeing a big increase for the MMSD charges, because I'm thinking our lining projects and the big interceptor project we did on Industrial Drive, we're helping fix our I&I problem. So we have probably about, after this year's project, maybe 3 more lining projects to do, but we also now know where our I&I is with some help from MMSD. So we'll be targeting those areas after this year. So I think we're making some headway on that project. Moving on to the water utility budget. I have a lot of changes here, a lot of movement. The power purchase increased by $10,000 based on consumption and planned rate increase for 2023. These are the big pumps, so the big motors, and it's when they run is based on demand. So if demand is down, our power is down. Maintenance of pumping plant are is being decreased by $4,200. That's because we had a one-time purchase in 2022 and we're removing that request. Chemical purchase for next year increases by $3,400. That's due to planned increases. We could not get a hard number from our supplier. This has been the first time ever that I've never received an estimated increase, because it's all due to the availability of products on the market. So they didn't feel comfortable. He gave me a ballpark, and that's what they put in. So I'm hoping that by the end of 23, that things will be more back to normal with parts and materials and shipping and things like that on the national and international market. So Maintenance of water treatment equipment, we decreased that by $2,500 based on historical expenses. If we don't need it, we cut it. Reservoir towers and material and repair, we increased that by $3,000. We want to power wash the larger water tower next year. So that's another one-time increase. After next year, that extra money will go away.
Why was it so expensive in 2021?
We bought, we bought dehumidifiers this year. I don't recall what we did. It was another big project that we had. I think it was 8,200 that we had an ask for in 2021. We did floors. That came out of the budget as well. This is the only way we can, because they're not considered, if they're less than $5,000, we got to put them here versus the capital budget. So that's why we do these one-time increases or decreases. So they're mainly to keep the pump houses in good operating condition. Otherwise, we will get gigged by the DNR. So, right. So yeah, we decrease that by $3,000. Or I'm sorry, increase it by $3,000 so we can power wash the tower next year. The mains and material and repair, we increased that by $1,000. That's to cover materials for water main breaks. The cross connection control services, we decreased that by $11,200. We are now through the initial 2-year contract. This is required by the DNR for inspection of commercial facilities. Now that we have a database of all the, I don't want to call them cross connection, but the cross connection control devices in the commercial facilities, they determine the severity of the need. So more domestic, like eye doctors and things like that, will be on a different schedule. The more commercial facilities, industrial facilities, they'll be on an every 2-year cycle. So we went through the initial round and we're able to reduce it now that we're just gonna kind of cruise through on a normal cycle. HydroCorp is the company that we go with for that. The meters outside services, we increased that by $1,000 based on the meters that we have to test next year. These are all commercial meters. The meter annual software fees, we are decreasing that by $2,700 based on need. This basically covers the Beacon water reading system, the Ion Water, which probably about 500 households have signed up for to look at their water meter usage on an app, and our fixed antenna power consumption, things like that. So it all comes out of that new account.
Did you ever get those other reading points? Because I'm not able to get on the, or I haven't tried recently.
We had an issue with the one located by you. It's, I think it's on Midmore near Cold Spring.
Okay,
We have
so that should work now up there?
It was for some reason turned off since July 21st,
Oh, really? Okay.
but it should be on now.
Hmm.
So if you log in, hopefully you'll see. If you do log in and you don't see it, can you email me?
Sure.
But we had to involve Midwest Meter, something with the antenna.
Hmm.
But that one should be fixed now.
Okay.
But we do have 4 fixed antennas throughout the city that we are reading probably almost 99% of the meters. The ones that we were unable to pull in, we went in the basements and we moved the sensor to the outside, which helped us gather more. And then there are still a handful that we can't get, so we put those on a data plan. So now we receive those by cell phone, just like 5 cents a month or something like that, very cheap.
Oh, really?
And that comes out of this account as well. So we did a lot, and credit to you all on this committee and city council. We changed 3,000 meters in a year,
Yeah.
and we completely overhauled the system, and it's been working great. So the next item, the hydrant material and repair, we decreased that by $1,000 based on need. And the other one, as we covered in sewer, the utility on call pay increased by $3,256 here as well. The only one after this is storm utility. Any questions on the water budget? Okay. On storm, the outside services account was increased by 6,500. We have to account for a portion of the credit card service fee. That's a new allocation to the stormwater utility. So we increased that based on the directive of the administrator when he was here and Mark, our finance director. Operating supplies, we increased by $550 to help cover uniform costs of the crew. You know, part of that uniform increase is also the increase in costs on uniforms. I mean, whether it's blue jeans, tops, cold weather gear, steel tip shoes, things like that, all that comes out of here, as well as the required City of Monona embroidery. The equipment maintenance and repair, we decreased that by $1,000 based on need. The lake weed collection program, we decreased that by $2,000 based on need. Our street sweeping disposal decreased that $880 based on need. That is also split with the general fund in the streets budget. And our brush pickup increased by $970, and the other half is allocated in the forestry. Pretty straightforward budgets. I know there's a lot of movement within each budget, but overall, I think we did pretty good with maintaining the line items. So, any questions overall?
The lake weed collection program, where is that for collection at outfalls?
No, that's dock collection for people who live along the lake.
So bars.
Yeah.
Once a month or so.
It's every 2 weeks.
But that gets billed to.
Yeah, I thought that was a county thing.
Well,
Apparently,
that's another
county manages it.
that's another mayor directive to allocate that to the storm utility.
Oh, I see. Okay,
So,
gotcha. Yeah, they come every 2 weeks and you put the weeds out on the pier and they pick it up and.
I guess, you know, if you look at some of the logic of what comes in from the stormwater outfall pipes from the streets, phosphorus, all that other stuff. We don't have a lake management department or program. Plus it.
Just looks like it was a new added item in 2021.
Tim, you would know more on that. I think it was 2020.
I've never seen this line item before.
No, as far as the collection program itself,
Mhm.
that started like 2020, didn't it, from the docks?
I first noticed it, maybe 20
Yeah.
through there. Yeah, I was just kind of surprised when somebody showed up and cleaned off the
Yeah,
beach and I went, where did you guys come from?
I think we had.
It's like a perfect summer job for these guys.
Yeah.
You know, they're just putting around the lake and they're,
Mhm.
they fill up the barge and out to something else and.
I think 2020 was a pilot program. And then 2021, we had an allocation that did come through this committee. And I think the estimate at that time coming from the county was $6,000, but 2021, we didn't come close to that, so. But that is it for the operating budget.
And we just need one major motion.
Recommend approval as presented if there's no change.
Second.
All right, any last questions?
I'm curious as to what happens next. I mean, does the budget that gets approved here stay the same? Or does it get changed a lot?
From here, it goes on to committees. Well, first it goes to the mayor. I sit down with the mayor and the finance director and the city administrator, and then I have to justify what I'm requesting to her.
Okay.
Usually with the operating budget, she moves it on to the committee of the whole. It's different than the capital budget. Capital budget, she takes first swing at it. So it'll go on to city council, committee of the whole, where I have to present all this again. And then they chew on it for a while and they would either make amendments to remove or add. And then 2 reads at city council. So it goes through 3 more steps after here.
Most of the time, I would say people look to committees to kind of give that first run through.
Yeah.
With the recognition that I think and I'll just speak for myself. When I look at different budgets, both capital and operating from different committees, I know that committee, paying attention to that committee's responsibility and thinking the best they can based on that. It's when you start collecting them all together, then you're starting to recognize, like, yeah, individually, those might be the best decisions. Now, when we look at them all together, there might need to be some give and go that needs to happen.
And it does happen.
It does.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, for operating, oftentimes when there's kind of this target and a committee is close or on target for that, there's not much to mess with.
Yeah.
It's ones that they were told to come in at 0 and they come in at 5% over, like, we're
Then you're talking.
like, we only got so much money by taxes, so we gotta do something.
So what are the odds that it'll get changed from a 0 directive to a -2, which was also a sub-directive?
Let's say there was a department that ended up being over and there's good justification of why they need to increase their operating. We've got to come up with the money somewhere.
Yeah.
Like the pot is only so big when it comes to operating expenses.
2024 will be the
It's gonna be
critical year. There was a presentation that the finance director did to council a month ago.
Yeah.
It was very good. So if you can watch that on YouTube. Going into 23, we did good here with our budgets, but like Brian said, other departments might not be as successful. But I think the picture for the city in 24 is going to be interesting. So I think that's why they're kicking around an operating referendum.
Yeah, right.
With us being landlocked and not being able to grow,
right,
it's very hard on us because services, all these contracts continue to increase. Health insurance, all that stuff. And levy limits from the state, there's so much at play.
Sure.
So I'm glad I'm not the finance director. He's got a hard job.
Yeah, it's sure nice when you get cornfields to just build.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah, right.
like
Yeah.
that right now, money increases are tied to units. So we don't have many places to put more units.
Wasn't there once upon a time in which Monona had a population of over 10,000 with families? I'm talking about decades ago.
I would say so. I mean,
Yeah,
in my, well, decades, good, yeah, I guess. Decades now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been here for 40 years, so.
but
Yeah.
services have increased, quality of life services, park and rec. I mean, oftentimes I hear at council meetings reference to city Madison and having amenities like Madison. And I think because borders, you don't know borders as residents, you want what they got. And I think, Monona does really good for a city our size.
What amazing.
Yeah. So,
And we get to watch that silliness.
Yes,
And we get the best feel that happen.
that is true. From your,
Well, from sundown beyond, it was fabulous.
so we have Beth and Tim.
yep, so we have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
None.
All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, budget is passed. And item D, this was the added item. I didn't print out the new one, so I'll talk, but it's basically a discussion, no action. But just a discussion on the information that was presented during the appearance section. And I see Christy's still on here, so she still might be listening and maybe even jump on from the dog park. But Dan, I wonder if you can share at least some initial ideas that were kicked around regarding parking. Because the park itself is in the purview of this group, but the suggestion or desire to look at some of the parking aspects would be in this.
Hey, Brian?
Yeah.
I didn't hear what you said. I was thinking that the dog park should be in with the Parks Department, but I think you're saying no? It's with Public Works?
No, it is in the Parks Department.
Oh,
Yep.
That the park itself, any of the park, there was, Christie presented at council a larger scope of some suggestions and recommendations, some that were directed specifically at the park itself. And then for this group is really just around the parking
The
aspect.
parking, yeah, okay, got it.
So the dog park is Public Works property. When Mayor Miller at the time brought this forward, it was with full recognition that if for some reason Public Works needed it, we could take back the dog park and use it for whatever, yardway site.
Good luck.
Yeah. So that said, it's being operated and maintained through the parks budget because it's considered a park.
Sure.
And Christie, I don't know if you're there, if you can hear us. So the part of Christie's request that pertains to Public Works, it lies with the street parking request. So we looked at some things, and Brian and I had a short discussion Monday night. And I believe we don't really see any reason north of our north driveway, why we can't shift parking to the northbound lane. We want to keep it on the southbound lane from our driveway to the south because there's fewer curb cuts and you'll get more parking. If you do no parking on the entire southbound lane and northbound lane only, you're gonna probably reduce parking by 60 to 70% as you go further south. So we think it's a good, not trade-off, but maybe a trade-off would be the right word to consider changing the parking north of our north driveway. And then Christie mentioned that there is a disabled person who the police have been looking the other way on. He parks straight by the stop sign. He has his walker and he walks the shortest route he can. So I would work with our traffic engineer to see if we can do street parking and put a disabled plaque up. So that first spot would be for disabled. But if this committee recommends, it's not up for consideration today, but you all can decide to bring it back in November and take action on it. If that is the case, before that November meeting, I would talk with our engineer and see what we can do to see if, maybe a little bit south of our north driveway, to determine where that line should be for parking. So.
One other piece that came up was on the southbound lane. That is where there is a sidewalk that connects all the way down at the Taylor, all the way down to Broadway. Initially, I was like, okay, hang on. So if we shift parking, are we gonna have an issue of like not being able to then get access? But then it dawned on me of like, okay, wait a minute, like, I'm not sure, because the idea was like, okay, great. As soon as snow falls, like then now you got an issue of like how you're gonna get there. But if there's that strip, like people are still climbing over that strip if they were gonna climb over the strip to get into the sidewalk too.
Yeah, right. I mean, right now they cut across the road, they walk up to the sidewalk entry point.
Yeah.
If we did flip the parking, we in Public Works talked about making a wider ramp at the intersection to cover more of the Edna Taylor portion, because right now it's kind of geared towards the Femrite portion. We would make that wider. There's no plans to put a sidewalk in the terrace. There's none there today. And I think people would continue to walk on the street up to the intersection to get in.
Yeah.
Baby steps, I guess. Yeah, so. As far as Public Works, I don't see why we can't flip it, so.
And we did ask the police chief about the issue of like, because I said, well, do we have any other streets where you have parking on different sides of the street in different sections? We couldn't think of any, so we just asked the police chief if, and it sounds like, yeah, that's not unheard of.
Yeah, I would think not.
The thing is, we don't want to allow parking on both sides. We have a lot of semis that loop through there.
Yeah,
So,
I remember that discussion
Yeah.
from the dog park, you can have one side
Yeah.
only. And I think we went with the south side because of the sidewalk. But of course, people go where people go and
Yeah.
they're not gonna go onto the sidewalk and over to the farm.
I thought more people would park on Femrite.
Well, it's the opposite side too.
Yeah, but there is a crosswalk right there, so I don't think I see anybody parking on Femrite.
Now, they always want to be as close as they can.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense to park in the parking lot at Ed and Taylor. Walk across.
oh, right, yeah,
And is there a handicap stall in there?
Yeah,
There must be.
is there? Okay.
I believe it's closest to their like entry.
The entry, yeah. Oh, of course, that's City Madison.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I don't know, so it's up to you all if you want to bring this back for a consideration next month, and we'll do some homework in between there.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think the widening at that intersection will help also give more of a buffer and not have as much encroachment on that corner.
Mhm. Yeah, we will come back with dimensions.
Because there was concern about not getting too close to the public works driveway to make sure that they have
Sight line.
good sufficient
Yeah.
sight lines coming and going.
Yeah.
All right, just wanted to make sure that people had a chance, because sometimes it's nice when we know someone's coming for an appearance and we can still have time to notice something. So we can at least have a general discussion rather than hearing something and then everybody's like, well, can't really talk about it. So,
So I'm not sure if Christie's listening, but if she is occupied right now, I will update her.
Perfect.
Let her know where we're going with this.
all right, we will close item 6D and move on to 7, Public Works and Utility Operations Report. Anything you want to highlight?
I do want to give an update on South Winnequa. And, you know, that project is about 3 to 4 weeks behind schedule for 2 reasons, and it's not weather related, believe it or not. I mean, finally, weather's not an excuse. The main excuse for that is concrete supply.
Oh,
They can't fill the trucks. Lycon has over 40 trucks that sit idle because they have no drivers for it. So they're to the point where all summer long, they've been rationing concrete to their clients. So everybody has to wait. We can only get a certain amount of concrete in a week, and we get another batch next week kind of thing. So that has put us behind. And the other one is in relation to the MG&E undergrounding. TDS is not playing ball. In the past, it always used to be AT&T. They've moved on. Everyone's moved on except for TDS. And we actually have a meeting with the attorney tomorrow to find out what kind of action we can do. They've just stopped showing up. So, which means MG&E can't take down the poles in that 1 block section. So, but that's why we're 3 to 4 weeks behind. But we did continue with moving the curb. Paving, we're gonna start paving tomorrow, I believe, some driveways, and I think on Friday, the whole rest of the street will get paved. So the work where the retaining walls are by the Mullins property, I have no answer for that right now, because it's based on when MG&E can get the poles down. So this project they all carry into the next year. The funding carries into the next year. So the biggest thing is, as long as everything is wrapped up by June 1st and the landscaping is done, which they should be able to do retaining walls as long as there's snow on the ground. So, but the main thing is the curbs in, the street will be done, and we'll at least be able to open it up.
So the concrete that's missing is for the sidewalks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mainly in that 1 block section where the Mullins,
Oh,
the green property is. So,
That's probably one of the toughest sections.
yeah. So,
Still curious how that's going to pan out.
but overall, you take away those 2 issues and the project has gone pretty well. So,
what kind of feedback are you getting from the neighbors?
the feedback that we've received is that they at times didn't receive sufficient notice from paving, who is the prime contractor, when it comes to paving in front of the home.
How about design?
What's that?
How about design?
no negative feedback.
Okay.
We haven't received.
Probably still early though.
Yeah, I have received reports of people walking on the sidewalk already.
Mhm.
So it's getting a lot of use, which, we knew would. All the-
I've heard so many people say that they don't think anybody will ever walk on that sidewalk because they're not walking on the road. So I tell them they're wrong.
Yeah, there's people walking on the sidewalk already.
I know,
So.
that's cool.
I think they want to walk on a sidewalk to avoid bicycles.
Yeah.
It's a great motivation to walk on the sidewalk.
But if you get a chance to go down there, I mean, the sidewalk kind of blends in really nice as we meander around trees. I mean, you make it more neighborhood friendly
Mhm.
rather than just a straight shot, cut everything down. We've
Yeah.
had compliments in that regard that it doesn't look as bad as I thought it was going to look. It's nice to hear.
Kind of a backwards compliment, but yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Take and run with it.
Well, next year will be a good test because everything will be wrapped up. The 4 speed humps are going to help with the speeding through there. So the raised crosswalks,
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to getting it open back up and letting traffic go and see what happens. So.
Yeah. Especially with, it'll be interesting to see what happens with bikes.
Yeah.
How many of the bikes gravitate to the sidewalk?
Hopefully only little kids.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be.
So.
Question on the speed humps. I came down Midmore, that's Midmore, on the way here, and you come over the speed humps. And it's like the car's coming over and then it hits that asphalt really hard.
On McKenna?
McKenna, I'm sorry, yeah. And it's like over on Stoughton Road, where you go over the railroad tracks. I mean, those tracks were so bad for such a long time that it actually, the concrete on the other side has been pushed down. So you go into a dip as you come out those. And I'm wondering if that's will happen with the asphalt as you come over the speed hump.
Well, the concrete, I don't think would be the part that moves. It's probably.
No, the asphalt, yeah.
Yeah. So is it on the ones by your house on Winnequa Road or is it on the one at McKenna?
McKenna.
Okay, we'll take a look at
Yeah,
it.
it seemed like it kind of went into a little bit.
We'll look if they're settling there.
Yeah, I wonder if that might
Supposed to
be.
go less than 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
And that is supposed to be the mild one.
That's right, that's right.
Oh,
Mhm.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't have any other additions to the report.
all right, next scheduled meetings in November.
Yep, we will have that one. Doug has another
What's the
CSM.
date on that?
Second.
I won't be here.
Not a CSM. I think the same group is coming back for the next phase.
Okay,
Another CSM coming down the pipe.
I think he does, yeah. Yeah, we just did another one. Can't remember what one, but,
Okay.
all right, we just need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Leslie, thank you for taking time on your trip up north to your cottage. Okay, appreciate it.
Yep, not a problem. Hey,
All right.
Dan.
Yeah.
Is anybody looking for new members?
Yes, I think there's a good one waiting in the wings here. But I've been lobbying to see if we can reduce our committee size from 9 to 7, which would put our quorum at 4.
Oh,
When Joan was our clerk, she did a survey of city clerks in Wisconsin and of large communities and smaller communities, and the average public works committee size is 5 and 7 members. City of Madison, I believe, has 7. And we have a hard time filling the seats here. And so I wanted to get the committee feedback, but I need to get some form of okay from the mayor to bring it up. And I don't know where you stand on it, but I'm trying to.
Yeah, I was at wait and see to get a little bit more info, but
We have to do it by ordinance if we change, so.
so we need 5 people for a quorum now.
because we have 9 per ordinance. So if we go down to 7 per ordinance, our quorum is 4.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so. And
Okay.
I guess for me as a staff person, it'd be kind of nice to go with what the average is through I think we surveyed 35 municipalities. As 7 members, so, and I do have that data to share, so.
Yep.
Yeah, I think some of the, one argument on the other side is right now you have 2 alders that are on here, and to make sure that you have sufficient non-alder
Mhm.
participation and feedback, because that's really important rather than just having the same figureheads sit around a table talking about the same stuff.
And that's where I think having experience and backgrounds of the members
Yeah.
comes into play really good too, so.
Right. I was thinking over the years, we had a big committee for public works and we had all the topics covered. It was
Yeah,
functional.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it seems like right now with having 9, we can't fill the seats, and I know you are interim. And thank you again for helping out, so.
No problem.
Yeah, so as soon as we fill a seat, it's up to you if you want to hang on and fill the next seat or step off again.
I think she should.
Me too.
Thanks, Tim. No, I enjoy
Well,
it.
it's good
It's
to have
just
that
been gone
engineer
so much.
experience.
Yeah, and I want you to enjoy your cottage and retirement and all that too. I mean, but I do appreciate you helping out.
Thank you. All right. Okay,
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
yep. See you next time.
Yep, I was gonna say, it doesn't look like you'll be repainting any hydrants.